Hello, my lovelies! This is Jenny from Jenny's Fun Facts. We just want to take a moment to thank you so much, P Eats Meal Preps, for sponsoring our episodes. New menu out every Friday, order by Sunday, delivered fresh by Tuesday, and guess what? They deliver to all Montreal surrounding areas as well. Healthy, fresh, and delivered to your door for free. Add them and our podcast on Instagram at p.eats_P as in Peter, R-E-P as in Peter, S. Thanks, P Eats Meal Preps.
We are back. This is episode 56. Welcome to Noon Hour Out of the Box. A huge thank you to all our viewers. Your constant love and support is so appreciated. To our incredible producer, Jenny DeHame, thank you so much for making all this happen. And to, of course, the incredible, my co-host, my mentor, and good friend, Mr. Robert D'Alessio. How are you today?
I'm excited, Esther. Like every show, I'm excited, but this show here, I'm particularly excited because we got to hang out with one of comedy's best acts. He's a great guy. He's very funny, and this is a lot of fun. And I just can't wait to get the show going because it's going to be a lot of fun, like usual. Anyway,
so Robert, you and I were talking backstage, and we both confessed that we always kind of dreamt of being a stand-up comic. Is that correct?
You are absolutely correct, Esther. And I've tried, for those of you who heard the joke, bear with me. Anyways, I've tried for many years to make it as a stand-up comedian, but I never made it because I say my jokes sitting down. But other than that,
and there you have it. Yeah, hence why you're a podcaster.
With a great friend and mentor. He is kind of a mentor because, we watch him go and he's great at it. He's like an inspiration, with a great inspiration like Andrew. Who knows, Esther, maybe you and I will be on a comedy stage one day. You never know.
It's actually probably one of the hardest forms of comedy is to do stand-up. And yes. A lot of people think that it's easy and that you just have to be funny. I don't know how many times I've been told, because I have a sense of humor, that, have you considered stand-up? And I know for a fact how very difficult it is, and I'm sure you've been told the same.
I've been told the same. I'm watching these guys, and some of them are my friends, and I'm sweating for them. I go, come on, you can do it. And I go, oh my God, my biggest fear is, even for my friends, is like, how, if these guys screw up and forget their lines, or whatever, how are they going to do it? But Andrew is going to be coming on. He's going to be telling us a little bit more about the comedy and all that. So in the meantime, Esther, I propose, can we show these slides over here, go to program identification, and bring on today's star attraction?
Absolutely. So for the three people who don't know, what is stand-up comedy? Stand-up comedy is a form of comedic performance in which a comedian stands up on stage in front of an audience and delivers a prepared routine, usually a mix of jokes and longer humorous stories. Stand-up comedy is a solo gig. Traditionally speaking, stand-up comedy is a one-person show.
Stand-up comedy is one of the hardest forms of comedy to master. It's not just writing a killer set of jokes. It's also about finding your voice and presence on stage, honing the delivery of each punchline, and developing the mental tools to deal gracefully with a joke that bombs or an audience that isn't responding.
Oh, that must be tough. So, how do you get started in stand-up comedy? Now, this is according to Backstage Magazine. Number one, take a stand-up comedy class. Okay, that's pretty obvious. Number two, perform at open mics. Yeah, that's very important. And three, find your voice. I guess that's sort of like branding, like find who you are.
And finally, tips for beginners. Well, perform as often as you can. Carry a notebook with you and bring energy to the stage, not the energy drinks, but your own energy.
Absolutely. I know it's definitely a lot more difficult than people realize.
Esther?
Yes.
You're tuned into Noon Hour Out of the Box.
He was today's guest. He was on Rob's Inner Circle Monday evening at 8:00. Made such a great impression. It was absolutely a lot of fun, and we had one of our best shows ever. He's a very fun guy, a nice guy. He's graceful. He shares dwellings between Los Angeles and Montreal, and he is in Montreal since the month of May, sticking around with us. And he's got a big show coming up. Actually, 2 performances. One of them is on August 26th, and the following evening, August 27th. He's got those 2 shows going on, 2 performances each night, 8 and 10:30. And this is all happening at Cafe Cleopatra in Montreal, 1230 St. Lawrence at the corner of St. Catherine. Esther, without further ado, who is today's star attraction on Noon Hour Out of the Box?
I believe his name is Andrew.
Andrew Serles, welcome to Noon Hour Out of the Box.
Hey,
how are you?
Good to see you guys again.
Excellent. Esther, the honors are all yours. Open up the show.
We just spoke about the fact of how difficult, that form of comedy that you do so well is. Now, I'm just so curious, what got you into stand-up comedy in the first place?
So years ago, and we mentioned this before, where I started in high school just doing like celebrity impressions and whatnot. And we were starting John Abbott College, and they do a lot of stand-up shows during the lunch hour. So a buddy of mine, he's like, hey, why don't you go on stage and tell some jokes? And I was like, yeah, and I grew up watching Just for Laughs. And I always thought telling jokes for 5 minutes was just the hardest thing. I was like, I got on stage for 5 minutes. There's no way I could do that. And so I got on stage and I tried it, and a lot of the first couple of jokes were just kind of like, all right, like, you're very green. But once I did my impressions, then I just won everyone over. And over time, I was like writing material and doing impressions, and then eventually it came to a point where it was like, okay, the impressions they're too easy to win over the audience. So I just kind of backed off from that and just stuck more with like actual writing of like setup and punches. And yeah, eventually it was just like, all right, that's done. Let's just focus strictly on material. And now almost 20 years later, here we are.
Wow, 20 years.
Andrew, tell us. I was talking about just before we introduced you that you're on stage, and one of the biggest fears that I have when I'm watching my friends perform. First of all, hats off to you guys for having all that courage and being able to go on stage and doing something a lot of people would want to do, including us, that don't have the courage to do it. So hats off for that. How is it that you deal with the fear of not remembering your joke, your lines? How do you go? You have something prepared for that?
I mean, it's happened once, and luckily enough, it's one of those things where it only has to happen once for your brain to go, oh, let's make sure that never happens again. And I remember it was at the Comedy Nest, and like I just blanked and I couldn't remember what the next bit was. But since that's happened, like it's never happened again. And even for the days where it has happened, I'm able to play it off in a way where the audience has no idea that I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. But I'm able to do these little tricks in order to buy myself time to kind of circle back and be like, oh yes, that's where I am, and then I'm able to go from there. But yeah, sometimes it has to happen once for you to realize, yeah, let's never repeat that.
So I'm curious, do you, one of our tips that we showed on the slide was, actually, to do open mic, but also to carry a notebook around. When you're coming up with new material, do you actually do that? Do you carry a notebook around? Do you just sit down and decide to come up with material? Like, how do you formulate your material to begin with?
Funny enough, I actually carry a pen on me at all times, even though I don't have a paper with me, which defeats the purpose of having a pen, but I always have a pen on me. And just in case if I'm out somewhere, I'll jot something down on a napkin, but in this day and age, we all have cell phones. So it's like, I'll just make a note and I'll just email it to myself. But I remember, back in the day, yeah, I always had like a paper, or you'd be out somewhere like like a napkin somewhere, you just kind of jot something down. But yeah, it's just you never know when something might come to you, and we've all been in situations where it's like, oh, that is funny, oh yeah, I need to remember to buy milk, and then 30 seconds later you're like, what was I supposed to do again? So it's always nice to have something to write it down. Just sometimes you remember things not because you remember it, but because you remember writing something down. And
yes, the motion of actually writing is what helps you retain the memory of it. You're right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, being in a position to always remember to and there's times like even just this week alone, I've thought of something. Oh, let me just email it to myself so I could go back to it later. And sometimes you go back and you're like, oh yeah, that's really fun. I should try that. And sometimes you're like, ooh, yeah, gotta keep on writing.
Andrew, oh geez, I just forgot what I was about to say.
Did you write it down?
I did. First of all, I hope when you're writing these things down with that pen, I hope it's not invisible ink to start off with. Second of all, talk to us about your shows coming up on August 26th and 27th. Talk to us about what are these shows inspired from? Or what's going to be the material in there, more or less?
So the material before I left for Los Angeles, a lot of my material was just based on your daily my daily experiences of like being an ethnic and growing up in Canada, which is like being single and all of your friends are getting married, but it's been a lot of like the theme for like my first 3 shows. Now for my 4th show, a lot of it has to deal with like what's it like now being Canadian, now living in America. What's it like seeing the difference between Canadians and Americans and in their mentality, what they view, so a lot of that's based on my experiences in the last 6 years, just being in a different country, different world, being, being the outsider to an even higher degree. Cause now, it's one thing to be ethnic in Canada where it's like, oh, I'm still Canadian. It's fine. But now it's like, now I'm ethnic, I'm Canadian living in America. So it's like, it's a whole different layer. It's like a deeper layer now where it's like, oh, so I'm really a stranger in a strange land. So a lot of my material, but my new show will be basically those experiences in the last 6 years.
I can just imagine how funny that could be because there is a definite stark difference. I don't think people realize. Can you give us an idea of like one observation that you've made being a stranger in a strange land, being a Canadian in the US and the differences?
I have noticed though, let's see, what would be a major thing that I've noticed? I noticed when it comes to ethnicities is a big thing where, like if you're in Montreal, in Canada definitely, but like definitely in Montreal, where if you meet someone, you're like, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Italy. Like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Greece. In the States, it's like, oh, I'm Greek. Oh, but where are you from? Oh, Wisconsin. No. Is that no, bro? Like, where are you from? Like, where are you from? It's like when you get people, it's like, oh, I'm Italian. I'm hardcore Italian. It's like, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Jersey. It's like, no, but where are you? Like, how could you like this make?
It's like one layer in between. Like somehow they can't connect to the, they're still American regardless. They're always American first.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I've definitely noticed where it's like you're American first versus in Canada, it's like your ethnicity is first. You're still Canadian, but your ethnicity is first. So it's definitely a flip.
So Andrew, here in Canada, what would you consider the hot spots of comedy? Which cities can a comedian do better? Is there a specific area where a comedian can actually find a niche here in Canada?
I think the main hotspots are definitely Montreal, Toronto. I would say Vancouver probably be like second. Montreal is a good spot to start off with because I think because we have the festival and because we have a mix of North American and a European mentality, we kind of set the bar a little bit higher for comedy. So I've told comics, I'm like, yeah, if you could do well in any other city, that's fine. But if you do well in Montreal, every other city is a piece of cake, because I've seen a lot of comics from like, out west or even Ottawa, they do well, but then they come to Montreal and then they eat it, and then they're just like, oh, I don't understand what happened. I was like, yeah, Montreal audiences are they're just known for being harder, but if you win a Montreal audience, everywhere else is a piece of cake.
Even in the States.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like even in because I think because the bar is higher, if you're able to cross that bar, everywhere else is fine, So I think being a comic and getting my my training here, I guess you could say, that allows me to kind of like have my comedy kind of be very transcontinental, where it's like, okay, like my material will work everywhere and it's fine.
It's interesting. I've noticed that a lot of comedians, and even the ones who come to the festival here, there's a lot of networks that come down and they sort of start scouting the comedians for network TV or for film. So there is this natural progression for a lot of comedians to get into acting.
Yeah.
So, and do you think that it's part and parcel of the whole package, or it's just something that happens, or do most comedians want to act, or that's just sort of an offshoot of their stand-up comedy?
I think it just makes, I think comedians can make better, not better, but comedians can make good actors because we're so used to, exposing ourselves on stage. We're used to performing. Right. We're used to like our own writing. We know our timing, so for us to go from comedy to acting is a lot easier because it's like, oh yeah, like it's a variations on a theme, but it's like we know the beats, so it makes it a lot easier. Like we're used to going on stage and just bearing our soul and or whatnot, and and for us it's fine. So to do that in front of the camera is just like, oh, that's easy. That's why you see a lot of these guys like like Robin Williams, or like your Kevin Hart's or whatnot. You see them start doing acting because it's like, yeah, it's the same thing, except in some ways it's a little bit easier because you don't need that instant gratification of a laughter. You're just saying your lines to another person on a camera, and then you're like, all right, cool, then next, move on. So
you worked alongside some pretty big names here in Montreal. We're talking about Joey Elias, Mike Ward, and Sugar Sammy. What was it like working with these seasoned performers?
Oh, great. I mean, like you definitely, you learn a lot and you learn very quickly to keep up with them. And it's good, like the first show I ever did at Abbott, like when I mentioned about starting stand-up, the first guy I did comedy for was for Joey Elias and Ryan Wilner. Oh. So it was great to watch these guys, but it's also, like guys like, you got guys like Joey and Sugar who could do easily 45 minutes just talking to the audience, and it's like, and it's like it's right in their hand, like they get the best responses, they get the best people to make fun of and whatnot. So it's great to watch these guys and see, oh, that's why you are where you are, because of how good you are, because it's like it's good to see that, and it's also good to use it as like your marker in life, where it's like, okay, I need to get to that level. And that's always been one of the things I've been not I guess you could say chasing, but it's like it's something that you want to be like, oh, I want to be like this guy, like if you want to be a new wrestler, like if you want to be a wrestler, you're like, oh, I want to be like The Rock. So that by wanting to be that, it forces you to be better and be a better writer, be a better performer. So having guys like that, it definitely makes me better comic.
And I have a second part to that question that I'll leave it to you afterwards, Esther. When you're performing, you're on stage, and you spot someone in the audience. How is it that you know who to spot and who to pick on?
Ooh,
that's a good one.
I think it's intuition. There's sometimes you spot someone and then you're like, okay, let's see where this is gonna go.
If he or she keeps laughing at your jokes all the time and laughs the loudest, you're a dead duck, right? Is that it?
Oh yeah. I mean, like there was one guy, like I headlined a club in Kitchener 2 weekends ago, and there's one guy, he's heckling, and then there's another person who had like a very funny laugh, and there's just some things where you're just kind of like you get on stage and you're just kind of like you're looking around, and like I'll always take a couple seconds to kind of like look into the audience, because I want to see like okay, who could I talk to, and there's some people you look at, you're just like I don't know if anything good is gonna come from this. But there's some people you're just like, we're gonna talk to this one because I feel like something good is gonna come if I talk to this person. So sometimes it's a look, sometimes it's what they're wearing, but that's where you get guys like like your Joey and your Sugar, who's good at that. They're able to spot certain things on a person that be like, I want to talk to this person.
If you spot Don Cherry in the audience, it's obvious he'll be picking on him with the suits he wears.
Oh, of course, yeah, and he might look at me and goes, you people, and it's like, all right, here we go.
Interestingly enough, I always get picked on. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's because I have this loud, obnoxious laugh, but yeah, I'm always a target. Now, you said earlier, when comics go on stage and they make fun of people, but now it's become kind of an issue. So there's this one question I prepared. So being overly politically correct in the world of stand-up, or has being overly politically correct now in the world of stand-up put a damper on the art of stand-up?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. It's a weird subject where it's good that we have to be it's good that we're in a position where it's like we do have to realize the things that we're saying can have an effect on people, not just as performers, but not just as comics, but just as performers or people in the spotlight. It's good that we need to be reminded of that at times, because it's like we are in a position of power where our voices are heard and amplified into a mic, and so it's like whatever we say will be listened to or will be carried along a lot further than any other person with a microphone. But at the same time, if you come to a comedy show and then you're expecting like Dr. Seuss jokes, it's kind of like, well, bro, you're not gonna get that, comedy, we should be pushing the envelope, and
yes, I agree.
We should be not only pushing the envelope, but also what makes things funny is that like you take certain things that people are scared of, and then you bring it into a comedic context, and then you break it down, and then it shows people, oh, this is why we shouldn't be afraid of this and that, or why this political thing shouldn't be as scary or whatever, So like there's one bit that I want to do for my shows on the 26th and 27th, where I talk about the Klan, the KKK. I talk about their mentality, but I do it in a way where it's like, this is what they are. This is the comedy box I'm going to put them in, and this is why they're not as scary as you think they are, or why their logic doesn't make any sense. So that's where comedy is good, where it's supposed to it's not supposed to not necessarily make people feel uncomfortable, but it's supposed to take things that make people feel uncomfortable, make it funny, so therefore it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable anymore.
Yes, and one of the most popular shows in the Comedy Fest is the Nasty Show, which definitely pushes the buttons. So that's an interesting observation that you're saying, and so very true, I believe. Yeah,
and I think that's what comedy is good for. It's just to make the things that are uncomfortable make you feel comfortable with them, So I think it's, but if we're not doing that, then it's like, then go watch Seinfeld, or watch there's comedy for everyone, like if you don't like this comic, fine, go somewhere else. You don't like this TV show, fine, watch something else that you like, but unless we're spewing hate, or we're spewing this, then it's just like, well, everyone's got preferences. Find something that you like then,
A reminder to the audience, for all of those who may have tuned in a little later, our guest today, Andrew Serles, will be performing at Cafe Cleopatra, located at 1230 St. Lawrence Boulevard at the corner of St. Catherine in Montreal on August 26th and August 27th. On each of those shows, there will be two performances: the early bird show at 8 o'clock, and the one, if you want to hang out a little later, at 10:30, he'll be giving a performance as well. Tell us, Andrew, what is your most memorable performance in comedy, be it in Ottawa, Montreal, or LA? It could be a great experience, or it could be something like it just like left you like in awe.
I think the best show, my first standing ovation was I did a Frost Week. I did a Frost Week for, I think it was Carleton University or Ottawa U. I think, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like maybe like 300 students, and like, you know, they're all, I think it's for their science department. So I think they were all decked in like blue and yellow, I think it was. And like there's a giant auditorium, and you know, it's weird. It's funny because it's like the Ottawa University was kind of like American universities where it's like they're all, you know, they're celebrating. They got the colors. They got like McGill and Concordia. They don't do that. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Just go. The pub is there. Go drink. You know.
Right.
But this one, it was like maybe like 300 students, and like they all had like their little symbols where it's like you have your elbow. You have to show your elbow because in sciences your hands are busy. So you're like, in order to greet someone, you do something with your elbow. So it was a little science like that. And I was asking one of the organizers, like, hey, what's going on with this stuff? And so they explained me a lot of things. And then I get on stage, and then I was like the headlining act. So I get on stage, and of course I do my elbow, and everyone just loses their mind because they're just like, what? How does he know this? And then like you had to like do you drop to the ground, and you kind of like roll around, and that meant something else. And then they were like, how does he know this thing? So I did like 30 minutes of it, and then I did 30 minutes, got off stage, did my headline, did my closer. And then like everyone just gets up, and I was like, holy crap, I like this. This is fun. And it was like, there was a lot of people, and I think it was like definitely the best show, one of the best shows, or at least one of the most memorial. It was a fond memory.
Do you find that you have to change the material depending on the location? Do you have to make it more local, or you have to change it depending on, you know, if you are performing in an institution or a school, etc.? Do you change the material slightly for depending?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll know what kind of show it is before I get there, like whether it's a club show or if it's like doing a show like at a bar. I've done shows where it's like you know, for the, oh my gosh, can't remember the name. It's in Verdun. It's like for the, not Shriners. It's another name. There's another thing very similar. But what I'll do? Sorry,
I said Douglas. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, it was no. Well, like so what I'll do is I'll go in with like a certain a certain set list of like what I want to do, but I also make like a B list where it's like things I can substitute in and out based on the audience, you know, because sometimes you'll get there and you're like, oh, this is a lot younger than I thought, you know, and you know, suddenly your jokes on marriage aren't going to work, you know, because, you know, they're kids, you know, or sometimes you get there and it's like, oh, they're a lot older than I thought. Oh, well, my material is geared for younger. So I'll always bring like a backup based on what I want to do versus the things that I might switch out for based on the type of audience that's there.
Oh, interesting.
Andrew, this has been a wonderful half hour. Your presence has been exhilarating. We had a lot of fun. This was very informative. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
You know, keep us informed of what's going on. We'd be glad to share with the audience. Esther and I have a little announcement today. It's not that bad, a sad story. Esther and I have decided we're going to have to be taking a little hiatus to be focusing on some other professional things that are going on in our lives right now. But just like Arnold Schwarzenegger will be back, you know, it's just a question of time. We want to fix these things up and all that, and we're going to be coming back to you. And you know, from the bottom of our hearts, Esther, myself, and Jenny, who's a producer of our show, we would like to thank each and every one of you who have supported us throughout all of this time over here, and who will continue to support us in the upcoming months when we're going to be coming back. Esther, if you want to address the audience, if you want to have a personal message to the audience, this is your platform right now.
Like I always say in the beginning, your constant love and support is always so, so very appreciated. And I know that when we do come back, that you guys will be there. And we will be back. We're just taking a little break. We both have a lot of projects going on, and we just want to focus more on that for now.
You know what? This comes just in time because I'm about to break down over here.
Oh, no. Well, thank God Andrew is here. Say something funny, quick.
Andrew,
let me get you a tissue here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want
Yeah, Andrew, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Oh, about like what?
Sir, what was the question?
What was the question? Was there a question?
There was not a question, but I actually do have a question.
Sure.
I actually curious if you have advice for anyone who wants to get into the field of stand-up comedy. What is one or two major points of advice that you would give that individual?
Ooh, okay. So I'll say one thing comes to mind that a lot of people think is what's preventing them from getting the comedy. It's actually the best thing to do. A lot of people say, "Oh, but I'm in my 40s. Oh, there's
like this.
What I want to talk about," and it's like, no, that's actually the best time to start because you actually have 40 years of material of your life to go through. So, like you actually have a lot more things, a wider variety of things to talk about versus like an 18-year-old, So the older you start, the more life experiences you have. So it's actually one of the best times to start. And there's people I know that start in their 50s. Go for it, like Lewis Black. I think he didn't start until he was in his mid 40s, I think. So
Right, yeah.
the later you start, sometimes it's the better, And second thing is write material. It's comedy's trial and error. You go on stage, you try it, doesn't work, try it again. Even as a professional, there's some material that I have, like it'll get an applause break one night, the next night gets nothing. That's the nature of the beast, But keep trying it, have fun, and yeah, and also listen. There's a lot of drama out there. Just stick with your own gut, like find who you know, find who you like, stick with them, and and you'll be all right.
Great advice. Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and I don't have the time and space. But I was about to do an Andrew Serles impersonation, but unfortunately, we ran out of time.
Oh.
Thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you, Jenny, for producing our show. And Esther, thank you so much for being the wonderful co-host that you are. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you sometime in the future. Goodbye for now.
Ciao for now.
Hey, guys.